Guys, everything about today's video is a spoiler, so I'm sorry. Please don't watch it if you're a player. Don't spoil the fun. Thank you. Bye bye. Welcome. Episode 42, John's D&D vlog. Today we're going to talk about Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, S3. It was published back in 1980, and this is one of the ones that Gary Gygax himself wrote. I was always interested in doing this module, and it wasn't until recent that I was able to run it. It's fun because you finally get to add some science fiction to a game that's largely just fantasy, which is nice, right? Anyway, this was ranked number 5 in the top 30 modules ever made, as they were ranked by Dungeon Magazine back in 2004. It was republished later on again in the Realms of Horror, quote, supermodule, unquote. It's not actually a supermodule. The 4 stories aren't actually linked to each other. But nonetheless, it's there. But be warned about Realms of Horror. When they republished the stories, they made a lot of changes. And I know for certain, at the very least, that in Realms of Horror, all the room numbers have been changed. So, like, some people might think they can get Realms of Horror and use a booklet from that and maybe the map from an original edition S3. You can't go to Realms of Horror for spare parts. It just doesn't work. So, anyway, here we go. It's a fun, exciting thing. You got to get into it, though. It takes a bit of work. I'll explain what I mean. Here we go. So here's the guide I made for the module. Usually when I make guides, I plan out the guide first, I do it all, and then I run the module. And then once I run the module, I come back and I do my blog episode about it. But honestly speaking, this one was so hard, it just took me forever to draw all these maps. There's a lot of really good information here. As far as the tech, XP, and GP values, all this XP value stuff, you might have different opinions than mine, so go ahead, do what you will. But nonetheless, I included all the XP count for all the different areas. Anyway, I keep this thing in the same place I keep all the others. If you can't find the PDF when you go looking for it, check out the more info for this blog page, and there might be something written there. We'll just see what happens. No one knows what the future holds. Anyway, all these maps really took a long time to draw. So, but I really like them. I mean, if you look at them super close, you can see I put in all the different, what happened in each area. So, because you can see everything that's going on in each area, it's a lot easier for the DM to kind of stay on top of everything, right? So, anyway, enjoy. I think it makes life a lot easier. I made some key cards too that you can use if you'd like. Although I haven't printed them out, I'll show them to you. I'll show them to you later. It's in the guide, and I'll show you what they look like later. So the super brief breakdown for this module is actually as simple can be. One day, as your adventurers are walking through some kind of a mountainous area, they come across a cave, and the cave entrance within it are a set of doors that are the entrance to a spaceship that has crashed somehow into this mountain, right? So somehow within this are the remains of a really, really, really big spaceship, right? And it's got 6 levels, and that's it. It's just your players find an old spaceship, and the whole idea of the entire module is your player characters are supposed to go through this thing and interact with all the technology and with all the monsters that are there and somehow survive. And there's no magic items to speak of in this entire module. It's all scientific sort of weaponry and technological gadgets and such. So it's very different than all the other modules. It's actually quite an interesting thing. Some people have complained about it. All it is just a ship, and the entire story is just the characters walking through it. That's it, right? Some people want more of a storyline. They want a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in this one, it's just a ship. So I'll explain what you can do to add some flavor to this story, because honestly speaking, there is no story here. This isn't an introductory module. It isn't. It's for players who are at least 8th level and up to go through. And at 8th level, odds are your players have had a whole bunch of experiences so far. They've gone through other modules or they've gone through other storylines that you yourself created. So they've got a history, and then that's what you use in order to give this story more of a story, right? You take elements from the experiences that they've already had and you continue them on into the story, right? So, like in my case, the group that I had go through here, right? They had just gone through White Plume Mountain, Module S2, and they when they gave Wave back to the ship captain who was paying for it all, right? They got treasure, but then also along with the treasure they got a map to this place, right? Because the ship captain had gone through this area and he had noticed these doors, and it was something he never had experienced before, but he didn't want to stop to check it out. So he's giving the map to the PCs. That's the sort of thing adventurers are into, so that's why he gave it to them, right? So anyway, this place was very far away, so the PCs didn't want to travel there by themselves, so they hired somebody to teleport them there, right? So this guy that they went to teleport them there, I rolled it up, and as it turned out, he was chaotic evil. They just chose to chance working with a chaotic evil guy, which is usually not a wise thing to do, but nonetheless they did, right? Anyway, this chaotic evil wizard teleported them to the ship, and when he saw those double doors, he realized there was something very special going on here, and he wanted to be part of the group. He wanted to go in with the group and investigate this place with them. So the party allowed a chaotic evil wizard who was higher level than them to go through the module with them, which really sounds like a mistake, but that's what they chose to do. Anyway, they eventually woke up the Veggie Pygmies, and there was a big, huge fight. And what the wizard ended up doing was he waited for everybody's hit points to go way down and everybody's spells to go way down. And then when the fight was almost done and the players were almost dead, he fireballed the group. In my campaign, we have cookie stones. When you die, you don't actually die. You're regenerated and you're healed and you're teleported back to Eastbrook, right? I've talked about it in previous episodes. Anyway, it took them a while to regroup. And then while they were regrouping, this evil wizard, he went and got his own group of guys. All of them are higher level than these guys, and they went into the ship. And from that point on, it became a race. Who can get to the technology first? Who can get the experience points first? And then that's what ended up happening, right? And it was exciting. It was interesting. Anyway, that's what I would suggest. You take previous elements from experiences these guys have already had, and you continue them into this module, and then those experiences become the story, and the ship just becomes the environment that the story happens in. It's my personal opinion that in order to do this module right, you got to do a lot of preparations beforehand, because there's a lot of little things that need to be done. So, like in the module itself, you're going to find all these pictures, right? And they come in one single booklet. And your characters, your players are going to see these from time to time, and then when they see them, you're going to have to give them over the whole booklet and make sure they don't turn the pages on you, and it's kind of frustrating. So I knew I'd probably eventually I do this as part of my job. I'm an English teacher, right? So I knew I'd be doing this module several times, so I went and I had all these, I made photocopies of all the pages, and then I laminated them. And what I do is this, right? So I got this folder. And inside this folder, I've got two different sections, right? I've got the stuff that they've seen before. As soon as they've seen it, I take it out of this folder, and instead I put it over here. This is the found and seen section, right? So every time that they start up a game session while they're doing this module, I just take everything out of here and I give it to them, right? And then they can keep looking at it through the rest of the session if they want to. So basically, you're talking about two different areas where you keep the pictures. You've got one where the ones that they haven't seen, and then the ones that they have seen, right? And those key cards, right? Here's some of those key cards I was telling you about, right? Every time they find a key card, right, you give them one of these, and then they've got it in their hands, and then you don't have to keep track of anything because they can constantly show you the card if they need to. And then if something really bad happens to them and they lose these things, they can give them back. There's a lot of visual objects that you're supposed to give them access to. And if you do it like this, they can look at it for as long as they want to for the rest of the game. So I see that as being kind of important to the story. Also, these numbers up here, it's you have to really know the module extremely well in order to know what drawing to show when. So I'll show you what to do about that too. Okay, so here we go. This is the map for level 1, of course, and let's take a closer look at it, okay? Okay, so what you're going to see is, I guess the first thing you should probably notice when you get into this module is just how immensely big it is. It's huge. There's so much detail going on. I mean, I calculated the rough square area footage of this module and compared it with others in the guide. And what you're going to see is this thing is like twice as big as like the Temple of Elemental Evil. It's like the biggest thing out there. The only thing out there that I saw bigger, I think it was that one by, I can't remember his name exactly, but I think it's called the Ruins of Undermountain. That one's bigger. But honestly speaking, this thing is a massive thing. And it's got all these empty rooms, right? Which you're going to have to figure out how to deal with. You have to paint in these areas with some kind of detail, or if you want to, you can just tell your players, oh, it's empty, oh, it's empty, oh, it's empty, move on, which sounds really boring, you know? But honestly speaking, it will make the module take a lot of time if you fill in details about all these different little empty rooms. So, whatever. Anyway, the reason why I'm showing you these maps is so I can show you what I did about the illustrations, something to make my life a little bit easier. So like if you look right here, see in the middle there, it's got that red 7. The red 7 means that when the players get to that area, I take out the illustration numbered 7, right? And like over here, I've got illustration number 9 and 8 for those med lab guys, right? There's a lot of illustrations that you need to show here in the middle, right? But anyway, if you don't have this information like written down on your map, maybe make a photocopy of your map and like make a lot of notes. It's going to be really hard for you to know what to do when. Those little maps are, those little illustrations are pretty important. I guess while we're here, we could just look at the rest of the maps a little bit. I don't have a lot of war stories. My players, they started playing it and they really got into it and we had a lot of fun. But then in the middle of it, one of the players had to move away, so him and his mom had to move to a different city. And then at the same time, another player, the grandmother died, right? And she was playing with the mother, the daughter of the woman who died. So they were pretty grief-stricken, and then they ended up not coming back. So it's too bad. They were having a lot of fun, too. Anyway, I guess I can talk about a little bit about it. I knew the game was going to end because the one kid was moving away. So I changed the ship a bit. I made it so that the ship worked still, right? It could fly. So in the middle here, I took out the words computer and I put in bridge. And as these guys were going through here and they saw all the computers that were lying about the ship, right? And they eventually found one that had maps in it. And he looked into the middle of this map and he saw the word bridge and he looked it up in his dictionary. And they made a beeline straight for this place. They found the key card somehow, and they got in there, and the ship was, the controls were still active. They were willing to take the ship and fly it a bit. I was trying to get them to fly off into the sunset, you know, so that they could leave the game and fly off into the sunset, have a really touching feeling to it. But they never figured out how to fly the thing. So anyway, but it was fun. I guess I can show you the other maps too. I never got the chance to run this in elective hour. I wish I had had that chance. That sounds like a really tough, honestly speaking, a really unfair fight. Of all of the maps that were the hardest to understand, it was this one right here on level 4. Because it's all done in black and white in the module, and if you look in Realms of Horror, that's all black and white too, but you really need color to make this thing understandable. But anyway, I put in all these words that tell you what's happening in each area. So it's so much easier for the referee to react. You know, you don't have to know this thing like the back of your hand. You can slosh around in it while you're figuring things out. Anyway, I've got the number of the illustration here next to each one. It just makes life so much easier. So when you do your map, I suggest you make a lot of notes. It makes life a lot easier. One word about the computer system on the ship. So I designed this ship. You got to figure out what kind of ship it is. I mean, what kind of a ship was this originally intended to be? Is it like a cruiser? Is it like a cargo ship? Is it like a battleship? And then once you figure that out, you'll know better how to deal with all those little empty areas. But nonetheless, I chose for mine to be like a pleasure cruiser, like the ship in Wall-E. I think they called it the Axiom. Anyway, the whole ship is designed for comfort, for the comfort of the passengers. So back in 1980, there weren't too many personal computers. Personal computing was actually just getting started, and everything was really small, and nothing really could be done with them much. But nowadays, I mean, we kind of know a little bit more what society would be like if computers were in it and were common. Computers are everywhere. So I designed the ship a little bit different, and I had in all of the personal living spaces a computer system that kind of looked like this. Just the main screen. It was designed for people who don't know anything at all about technology. These things are designed basically to be the main method everyone has for entertaining themselves, but also for communication and gathering information. So I just had a really simple interface. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but these numbers, players won't be able to understand them because they're written in a different language. And actually, it's not even numbers. It would be like little, like today, how everything is done with little pictures that represent how a thing can be used. So like number 1 is if you want to see a movie. Number 2 is if you want to see music. 3 is if you want to play a game. 4, I think, was for like the browser, and 5 was for email, and 6 was to actually show you the ship and explain what was going on. It would be like a traveler's guide to some amusement park. But if you click this option, you can see all the different levels of the ship. And then I also allowed each of the computers to be able to print things out. So they could go through here and look at all the different levels of the ship and then print it out if they want to. So if these guys wanted to, they could walk around with a printout of the map of any given level if they were smart enough to figure out how to do it. But this ended up being a really interesting part of the entire experience for the kids who were playing the game. So like they'd click on one, and then there'd be a big list of different movies. But the movies are all written in a different language, and it's really bad translation. So if you were to use comprehend languages, it would give you a really bad translation of a movie name. So, like, Muppets Take Manhattan would be Hand Puppets Destroy a Big City. Star Wars would be Big Space Fight, or A Man for All Seasons would be like A Man Everywhere Around You All of the Time. They would take some name and then translate it really bad. It just made it really interesting. Anyway, they would click on this option, and like one time they just sat down and watched 2001: A Space Odyssey. They watched like the first 5-10 minutes of it. They were just so intrigued. I mean, when I added little details like this to the game, it became not a game about fighting things. It became a game about witnessing another culture and getting into the ruins of a civilization. Like here, they clicked on 2 and I started playing them Led Zeppelin. And then I'd play them like Chet Atkins, you know, and they were just blown away by that. And they clicked on here 3, and one of the kids just sat there for a really long time trying to figure out how to play Batman Arkham Asylum. And once she kind of figured it out a little bit, she was really excited, you know. It was just interesting to see how it took the D&D game and turned it, instead of something just about fighting, but it became just like the exploration of another culture, you know, a dead culture, which, honestly speaking, that's a really cool way to play a game. We had a lot of fun with that. Anyway, I suggest you do this. It made the game a lot interesting, but it does make the game take a lot more time.
From here, I was going to show how to solve one particular problem that this module has: massively big fights. On the first level of this ship, there's a race of creatures called the Vegapygmies. As it turns out, the Vegapygmies are the crew of the ship that have all mutated into a huge band of mostly mindless, murderous humanoids. And on this first level, there are hundreds of them, and they are pretty much right next to one another, shoulder to shoulder. In other words, I couldn't really see how the adventurers could pick them off silently room by room. Stealthily moving around this place, picking off the Vegapygmies little by little, seemed like it was not at all a possibility. So I did something that ended up being really hard on me as a DM, but also for all the players. When they got within sight of one of the Vegapygmies, I had the Vegapygmy start making a sound. Bleep, bleep, bleep. and the sound never ended. When the sound happened, all of the Vegapygmies everywhere started moving out of their cabins, and they all started moving towards the group, and they all started repeating the same upsetting sound. Bleep, 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 bleep. All of the monsters from the ship came after them, slowly. In my opinion, D&D doesn't really have a good way to deal with very large fights. I've struggled a few times trying to show in my videos ways to deal with big fights like this, but I don't think I've ever explained it adequately. I think I'll try one more time, but I'll have to make a special episode of the vlog to do it. On that day, though, we did it the hard way. The players retreated to an area just outside of the ship, and they decided to pick off all the Vegapygmies as they came out into the open, wave by wave. I brought them out in groups of 12 Vegapygmies each, and their pets also. At the end of the fight, I had the boss of Vegapygmies come out, each armed with grenades. The fight finished and the players won, especially with the help of their chaotic evil wizard acquaintance, Ed. But it was really hard. It was really hard to DM the fight, and the players were all pretty much worn out physically by the time the fight was through. It went on for a really long time. At the end of the fight, when the players were low on hit points and spell points, that was when I had their chaotic evil buddy, Ed, fireball them. Those guys really hated me that day, but they ended up winning in time. For the rest of the module, from time to time, as they explored the ship, I had them stumble across the body of one of Ed's party, one of his group, his fellow adventurers. Before the game ended, I was going to have all of Ed's party die, except for Ed himself. I was then going to have the final boss fight be against Ed, except that he was now armed with science fiction sorts of weapons.
So anyway, that's what I have to offer. I hope it's been helpful. I know I stammer and stutter a little bit, but I hope it's been helpful. So anyway, thanks a lot. This was episode 42, John's D&D vlog. Anyway, have a good day. I hope you have a lot of fun. I'll see you later.